Pinehurst opened its first golf course in 1898. That made it the second Sandhills village to feature golf. Southern Pines opened its first course in 1896. This original course was connected to the Piney Woods Inn. Both the hotel and the course were located on the hill behind today's Calvary Christian Church. In those early days, few Americans knew what a proper golf course looked like. So, as with most of the nation's first golfing efforts, the course was little more than a vaguely defined area with a few flags here and there. Since there was little grass, they had to use red golf balls. Otherwise, they lost them regularly in the bright sand. From the hotel, one could overlook all of downtown Southern Pines. After the elegant hotel burned to the ground in 1913, the family owners donated the 7.5-acre tract to the town. The only stipulation was that the land be used in perpetuity as a park. The donation of the Piney Woods land showed civic spirit at its best. Unfortunately, the Hilltop Park was lost to mediocre residential development. Also unfortunate is the fact that this was not the only exceptional place in the area that has been unnecessarily lost or damaged. Returning to the story, there was yet another little-known golfing area in early Southern Pines. According to multiple sources, James Boyd had a private 9-hole course on his Weymouth estate. The exact location and nature of the Boyd course is not entirely known. It is believed to have been at the corner of Connecticut and Valley. While Pinehurst, the Piney Woods, and James Boyd continued their primitive efforts, civic leaders began building a proper course for the town. Southern Pines Country Club started in 1906, with the course opening the following year. Although we know when the course began, its earliest configuration remains somewhat vague. That was the case with many American courses. As the years moved along and knowledge expanded, the courses underwent many modifications. This was certainly the case with the Southern Pines Club. Many question whether or not the first edition was designed by Donald Ross. Multiple documents showed the initial version was co-designed by James McNabb and John Peacock. Who were these gentlemen? They were Scottish immigrants who worked as assistants to Donald Ross. Both were personally close to Ross. McNabb co-owned the Pinecrest Inn with the great architect. Peacock headed a Ross course in Canada during the summers. It is not known whether Ross had a hand in the original design. Given the closeness of the men and the fact that this was the time when his interest in design skyrocketed, it is likely Ross was involved from the beginning. Whether or not the famed architect was active with the initial version, he thoroughly reconfigured it in 1913 and 14. That redesign was only the beginning of Ross's involvement with Southern Pines Golf Club. He continued to refine and expand the club until the Great Depression. At its peak, the course featured 2 full 18-hole courses. A 5th 9 had been designed, and there were other grand plans for the facility. With further developments canceled, he remained involved as an investor until the 1940s. Today, the Little Nine is a nice stroll along rolling terrain. While most simply enjoy the natural setting, some wonder if the land possesses some significance beyond the beautiful facade. It does. One element that sets it apart from an average park is that it still bears the marks of an architectural genius. What exactly is the logic behind the use of topography? Ross will not start the round facing east due to the morning sun. Neither will he be overly demanding with the first shot. The player needs to be eased into the round, or as Ross put it, it's a beastly nuisance when starting off play and before getting limbered up to drive a ball out of bounds. It generally means delay, loss of ball, vexation, and even profanity. As you can see from the diagram, many considerations went into the design of the course. The idea is to make the most of what the property offers in order to provide a compelling amount of variety. Playing the same type of hole all day long is simply not that interesting. On the Little Nine, Ross has long shots, pitch shots, basically every type of shot is called for. And these shots are called for in an effective sequence. Ross has the player going uphill, downhill. There are moderate slopes with a few dramatic jumps and drops to keep things lively. The course is designed so that the golfer will find him or herself facing somewhat different challenges from day to day. One way that this is done is by cleverly running the holes through terrain where slopes are in close proximity. Through the randomness of wind, bounce, and the solidness of the strike, the same golfer will find themselves on different angles of slope with each playing of the course. One day their drive will find a level lie. The next day the same type of drive may have dribbled into a side hill position. The variations are abundant. Another factor that gave the Little Nine an eternal freshness is that the holes moved in different directions. In certain seasons, one can easily find a two-club wind. That is, the exact same shot can play differently depending on wind fluctuations. It can be quite a challenge to discern how the shifting winds will affect the shot. They frequently change in intensity and direction. Wind considerations have always been at the core of Scottish golf, and when you consider that Ross learned to play on the coast of northern Scotland, it will come as no surprise that remained a key part of his considerations. This is just a brief overview, but possibly it may serve to provide interested parties a view into the background logic of what made Donald Ross and this particular course a timeless quality. So highly prized were the Southern Pines courses that several of the best players in the history of the game participated in fiercely contested matches. Walter Hagen won the British Open 4 times, the US Open twice, and the PGA 5 times. After winning the 1924 US Open, he took on the British Open champ in a 36-hole match in Southern Pines. As usual, Hagen prevailed. Another notable competition was a tour event that occurred after the war. The Southern Pines Open lasted only a few years, but it featured stellar players at the peak of their form. Sam Snead bested Ben Hogan in 1946 by setting a course record that lasted for decades. There were many other high-caliber competitions through the years. One of them featured the 4 top women players of the day. It was considered such an event that Fox Movietone filmed it to be shown in theaters. As you can see, this land has been significant to the town in multiple ways for over a century. The number of people whose lives have been enriched by it runs into high numbers. Now its winding timeline has reached a turning point whose importance is not to be underestimated. Any decision will affect generations of citizens. The Elks could have sold the property for a small fortune. That they have not indicates outstanding stewardship and consideration on their part. Still, they must find a use for the Little Nine area, and they deserve to be properly compensated for it. We are fortunate they have given us a say in the future of this tract. Across the nation, we've seen a trend toward vast development. Jobs and economic growth are necessary for well-being. A vibrant economy obviously bodes well for the country, but there are other factors of great importance to our civic well-being. Ultimately, it comes down to what sort of place we would like this to be. What sort of town, what sort of country do you have when its exceptional elements are diminished or eliminated? Countries of this nature contrast sharply with ones that are robust, with cultural elements that inspire and invigorate. The choices and actions we take with this land will go far in defining what sort of people we really are.